Hey there, everybody. Thanks for joining me for another one-man review. Today I'm going to be taking a look at two books that I just got by the artist Debbie Jenkinson. I saw this one on Instagram somewhere and thought it looked good and went and saw that she had two books, and so I just got them both. They looked really nice. These look like they're both self-published. So there must have been some shop that I follow that had them, but these are both self-published. And she has her Twitter and Instagram and stuff on here where you can get them. I'll put a link to those things where you can buy the books. These are both books from and about Ireland. Debbie Jenkinson is obviously an Irish comic artist, and they're very much down-to-earth books about working class people, really saturated, just in life. They're exactly the kind of book that I really love right now, which is the vibe I got looking at it, and that really paid off. This one is an ICN award winner, best Irish comic 2020, and the Irish Times list best graphic novel 2021, and I think that's very well deserved. These are awesome books, a cartoonist I'm very excited about, and someone I hope continues to make work for a long time. So this is Ghosting. Ghosting is a story about Steve here, and Steve has been having a relationship with a gal named Monica. You can see here, and he's a bus driver, and she's someone who had been on his bus, and they start a flirtation, and they wind up going out and have a real connection, and then she disappears, and he can't accept that she has just ghosted him. He thinks that something else is going on. So the whole story is kind of this sweet but also creepy, depending on what her feelings are towards him. Search for her, where he kind of tracks down her family and everything. I don't want to give away too much about these. I want to just give you a look. But you see there's like this basically colored pencil approach to the art throughout this whole book. Really nice, like cartooning, good compositions. I think most really successful when there's a heavy lean into the colored pencils for a sense of place and atmosphere. But I really like the light coloration all throughout. I especially like these scenes, these more atmospheric scenes here. Also some really beautiful moments where Jenkinson is really willing to lean into the abstraction of a scene and just use color and stuff to get emotion. I don't know if it's just how these are printed or how these are being scanned or whatever, but there's some where it looks like this is scanned and in super high resolution, and some where the art looks a little bit fuzzier to me. So I'm not sure how these are being made, but that's really the only quibble I have with it. Now you get Steve. He's gone to Italy, to Monica's hometown, and he's doing some research. So again, stalker and or like really sweet story, depending on her relationship to it. As he's getting there and he's asking people, I think there's a really awesome sequence of cartooning here where he asks this woman, do you recognize these people? And Jenkinson is such a good storyteller that she realizes, like, in this moment, this guy's going to be like hyper attentive, and so she slows everything down to these really slow beats, and she's like, I'm sorry, mister, I do. And you can see he's getting so excited, not know. And I just love that kind of peek into his psychological state that's handled only by the pacing of the panel is really good. And then here you can get a sense of when Jenkinson pulls back and really, goes in on the details, kind of the beauty of her art, but, knows when to hold back too, knows when that's not necessary and when you can just like see what the characters are up to. And even though the characters are a cartoon, there's a real sense of like specificness about them. It almost like, not at all what I think, but it almost feels like these have been photo referenced and converted to cartoons or something. Like there's just something about the characters that feel like lived to me. But then obviously capable of like very realistic drawing as well throughout. Here's another one of these awesome, just kind of atmospheric things here. And this I found really interesting, is that a clue that Steve figures out that kind of gives him a sense to figuring out where this girl Monica has gone, is he's listening to a song by a band called Granddaddy that has been referenced before in the book. And it's saying right here, Granddaddy on Radio Nova, and the song's called Rearview Mirror. That jumped out to me because that's a band that's from my hometown of Modesto, which Even though this is in Ireland, there's kind of like a bleakness to both of the places that she's representing. And that just took something that I was already really enjoying and felt really grounded and tactile and visceral in terms of the sense of place, and tied it to my own experience, even though my experience wouldn't include anything that's in here. So really, really enjoyed that book, and then was very excited to read her follow-up book. This was in 2021. Midlands just came out this year. It just came out like a week ago or so at the time of me recording this. And this is a very different story, but again, like very grounded in a certain place, and very grounded in like working class people. I think she even like dedicates, for blow-ins and unsung heroes everywhere. Here you can see that the art is much more rendered. There's a lot more like detailing in the background and stuff. There are production things in this book that I'm not a huge fan of. One is having the artwork. It looks like it's all been done separately. And like in the other book, it looks like some of it's scanned and some of it's just photographed. I'm not sure if the sizes are too big or what, but sometimes it looks like things have been done. Like just here, it looks like this is at the size it was drawn at, just given the thickness of the marks. And then this looks like it was drawn much larger and got shrunk. And then put together with this very like digital, clean digital borders, and having this gray all the way around, which changes throughout the book, kind of depending on the mood. So I get that. Like you can see that here. If I close the book, you can see that there's kind of some different grays, but not like only more in the beginning, not throughout the end of the book. So I don't really like that look, and the lettering feels very digital and cut in with this gray as well. And compared to the lettering and just the presentation here, where it's all hand-drawn and hand-drawn lettering, I feel like this is perfectly fine lettering, and I can read it clearly, and it fits the look of the book. The presentation here feels a little bit stiffer, and I think that does a disservice to Jenkinson's art, which has that really beautiful like hand-done quality to it. The other thing that I think is kind of weird is that it looks like this is all done in pencil, and then there's just like digital gradients put over it that do give a sense of place and mood, but that combined with like the borders and stuff, it feels a little bit less lived in, because there's that digital facade over top of it, and I just kind of wish it would have looked like the other one. But that aside, the art is still really great. The story is still really great. You're getting a story about Ronnie is a pharmacist, and this is Ronnie here, and Veronica, and then this is her mom, who's obviously suffering from Alzheimer's or some form of dementia, and is going in and out of remembering her. Here's another page where this is like what the art looks like when it's not really touched by anything, and just way more detailed than the other book, and so way more saturated in sense of place. But then you get these weird, where again it looks like an artificial digital overlay over top of it, or maybe it's being drawn. These ones look maybe more like they're just on another color of paper, but there's like this strange gradient. Maybe it's an ink wash, I'm not sure. But there's something about the just brightness of the colors as they are that I quite like. Another thing production-wise that wasn't so great is that some of the lettering really comes way past the borders and goes into the gutter. I think that's probably something that these being self-published, like Jenkinson just hasn't had that, hasn't got back and seen this and realized, oh God, I need to build in this, extra half inch or something so that doesn't happen. So there's some little things like that that aren't quite polished. Which is strange because the first book didn't have any of that. But that said, story and art, love it. Here now, this character is going and gonna test her DNA. She has some concerns about like who her father was, because her mom, her dad's dead, but her mom says like, look after your dad, take care of your dad. And so it sets her on this quest to finding out who her real dad was. I don't want to give that away because it is a pretty big turning point in the book, and deals with a lot of the other themes in the book. So I'll just leave the story at that. But just looking at some more of these really beautiful, like atmospheric pencil color moments, there's definitely stuff like this where this is one drawing that's been made, it looks like, and it's zoomed in, but then the car's been done separately, or the car has been cut out and then put in. So there's some moments like that where you do see the artificialness of some of the production techniques a little bit. But underneath all of that, you get all of this just really richly detailed atmospheric art that gives a real sense of place. And in this story, the town and the place is very important to the story about who her father is and his influence on the town and things like that. And so just, yeah, again, same as with Ghosting, that rich sense of on the ground, tactile, atmospheric, visceral sense of a place and the people in the place comes through so strong in this book, and I really, really enjoyed it. I think Jenkinson really leveled up her artwork in this book. I just wish that would have been left kind of untouched by the computer, because I think her artwork's pretty fantastic on its own. But I get why you would take panels like this and not redraw them. You just kind of change the coloration on the computer and pop a couple characters in and out for time's sake. Especially if Debbie Jenkinson is also herself, a working class hero telling stories. She's can't be committed, I'm sure, full time to doing her self-published comics. So I see why some of that stuff is taken, and I don't hold it against my end assessment of both of these books, which is that they're very fantastically written. They're very, very well drawn, and I think just a beautiful 2 entries into the world of comics, and a creator that I look forward to seeing grow and tell more stories, and someone that I hope's continue to release a book every couple of years or so. Really love this stuff. So thank you, Debbie Jenkinson, for the great works. The Exile by Eric Creek is a gorgeously illustrated Viking saga of revenge. Eric Creek calls it his Viking Western. It's about a guy who's been away on the warpath and is returning home to some family troubles that have to be resolved. And this is told in just this amazing, kind of 3-color art style that looks like old woodblock cuts or something. It's absolutely gorgeous book that you've got to pick up.
Make sure to like, smash that subscribe button, and ring that bell.